Hello there, is Lazy Noob here once again with another Space Invaders 2 / Blender modding guide. I've already made this video once and half of it ended up not rendering, so I'm kind of making this for the second time. So hopefully it'll be a bit better as well. So today we're going to talk about LODs and materials, and we're going to look at the displacement material in V-Raise 3. So sometimes when you're making things, you're making blocks or whatever it is you want to do, you're not going to be able to make LODs that are anywhere near decent. So a good example, and the one I'm using today, is text. So if I make some text, get this test here. Now I just need to make this actual geometry. Let me just extrude this a little bit and convert to mesh. Okay, so if you look at this mesh here, there's no way really you can reduce this E without it looking absolutely crummy. You know, it's curved, it's got a bunch of geometry. There's just no way you can do it. So when you make LODs, you know, you just can't make geometry look that way. So you've got to approach it from a slightly different direction. There's a couple of ways. There's always a couple of ways to do it. One of them is baking, and you will see if you look at any of the vanilla stuff, you'll see that the last LOD is usually just um, baked, a baked LOD of all the materials and things. But we're going to use the example of text, and we're going to do this another way. So we can look at materials, we can look at displacement materials, although it isn't necessary to this, but I did want to go over it. So how PBR materials work, which is what we use in VRS3. It's a collection of a number of maps which dictate things like how metallic an item is, how rough it is, etc., etc. What we want to do is use partly our own, because we want some control over this, but we also want to use some of the vanilla stuff in the engine, specifically painted metal colorable, which if you haven't seen, it's the biggest material that you'll see in Space Engineers 2. It's the one that you can color with the paint gun, although you can color other materials with the paint gun as well. It's not just predicated on that one, but I think it's the most common material you'll see around. But we want to edit it to our purposes of making LODs for this text, and we also don't want to, if we're making an alphabet, for example, we don't want to have to make 26 materials. We just want to have to make one. So I'm going to basically go over that and how to do it. Again, there's a number of ways to do it, but for this, we're going to make a plane, and I'm just going to make this like 5 meters square, something like that. And I'm just going to move this down just a little bit, just below there. It doesn't have to be exact or anything. And what we're going to do is we're going to pop our text like this. Now, if you're making an alphabet, what you do is you do like A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I. You basically fill this square with all the characters you want. So A to Z, 1 to 9, or 1 to 0 with these special characters. You basically fill this square as much as you can. Imagine this square is going to be basically our UV map. It's not going to dictate texture. What it's going to dictate is a displacement map and an alpha map. And you can also use it as a colorable map as well. But I'll go into that when we make the material. But basically, this material, once we've made it, we will then map another plane to it. We'll import that into the original, kind of go through the process there. So the first thing we've got to do is give these textures. So when it comes to alpha maps, displacement maps, etc., they are grayscale maps, so they want things to be black, white, or shades of grey. This is a really simple one. We're just going to do it black and white, and in this case, we want the plane to be black because it's going to be see-through / low, and the text is going to be white because it's going to be high / opaque. So we're going to make a new material. And it'll just let me, we're just going to click white. And we're going to set the roughness up to max because what we don't want to do is for any reflections or anything like that. And we're going to come down to emission and we're going to set the strength to 1 because we're not going to use any external lights or anything like that. There's no need. We want everything to have its own light. And we're just going to do the same with this, except it's going to be black. Again, just set the roughness, set that to 1, and then set the color to black there. And now if we go into shading mode, it only shows that, so you can pop that to black as well. But it's basically going to look like this. What we need to do now is to make a camera, so Shift A, get ourselves a camera, and then press N to open the menu, and we're just going to set all our rotations to 0 so it points directly down, and then just move it up. And at this point, if I were to assume control of this camera, and come here, and scroll it out, it looks all right, but what you will find is, let's just scroll that back to 0, is that you won't, what you will find is that this isn't flat, so you can kind of see, it's hard to see because it is a flat color, but the T isn't, you're not looking at things directly flat on, there is perspective because it's this perspective camera because it says right here. What you need to do is change this to orthographic, and you see the change, so now it is truly flat, and you also see that I can't scroll in or out with the camera even though I'm locked to it with the tool here, so you can just unclick that. What we're going to use instead is this orthographic scale. We still need to set the active camera, but before we do that, we need to change the resolution because this is a rectangle. And we need to change the rendering into cycles as well. Resolution is going to be 4096 because that is how big the textures are in V-Ray 3, and we want them to be the same because you can't mix and match resolutions. There we go. And we go back to the camera settings. We just change the scale until it is, there we go. It doesn't have to be exact on this or anything like this. We're interested in everything inside the camera, and that's all. So once we've got that, we basically need to do a render. So this is F12. It's going to take a while because this is a 4K image, even though there's nothing on it. And if you've got more stuff on yours, there will be more stuff there. So perfect time for me to have a drink here. Oh dear. So this won't take that long, but this will take a couple of minutes. So have a cup of tea, think of something to do. But once we've got this done, we'll save the image. We'll then load it into Blender as a UV image. What you can then do is make a plane or multiple planes, and then you can map the UVs of those planes to this image. So you can do the entire text, you can do one letter, you can do 2 letters, you can do combinations. It's entirely up to you. And then I'll show you how to get that into game. It's all about just making things easy for yourself, just having one texture that'll do the lot. For something like, if you think about how LODs work, if you look at the calculator, it will tell you the distance at which different LODs take over. So it doesn't matter if you've got something that's flat, if you're looking at it from 10 meters away, because you're just not going to see it. So it's always good just to think about how and why things sort of work. Almost done. It'll take a little bit longer on this bit, and then it's got to just do some final processing, but we're almost there. There's a bunch of cool different materials that we've got in the editor. Okay. If you look at my glowing signs mod, um, I use an emissive material there, but it's not the usual emissive. So there is an emissive material in there that lets you program it to flash. It's really cool. There is like a retro emissive square which has like bars that jump up and down. That took like 56 materials to make, though, because the um, the flashes are have to be different materials because they kind of sync together. So you can have two if you want something to flash at the same time as something else, you can have the same material. But if you want different flashes, different rates of flashes, it's going to be its own separate material. I don't know what that does for performance, but it certainly ran the 56 materials all right. But it was on a very simple model, so who knows? Let's just probably zoom out this as well. But as you can see, we've now got a nice black background with our white text. And if you are good with Photoshop or anything else, you can do it in Photoshop. There's no reason why you couldn't do this with a vector image and a black background, white text. That would also work just as well. For those of you who are good with Photoshop, I hate Photoshop. I would rather ask AI to make me any 2D images that I need, or beg people to help me. I'm not good with Photoshop at all. So this is almost done. This has just got to finish, then it'll appear here. We'll be able to save it. So happy days. Excuse me. Any second now. I really need a new PC. There we go. So now we can save our image. I'm just going to save it to my downloads folder as text. We can get rid of that there. And now what we're going to do is we can hide our plane because we don't need it anymore. And I can come out of that. So what we're going to do now is make ourselves another plane. Plane. This time we're going to make this the size that we want. So we want it like on the Y, maybe 0.75. Maybe that is like 2 meters. I wonder if that's right. Let's have a look here. And yep, it'll just fit around there. Obviously, I had the foresight of knowing it was roughly going to be that. Of course, if you wanted to, you could just do, in fact, we'll just do it to make a point. We'll just do this. So we're going to do text. Oh, can we do it without getting that? Let's get as close as we can without getting it. Yeah, we can do that, and we can also do it. So let's delete this camera as well. So we're going to do text and leave the T out of it. So we're going to go to UV editing, and you'll see you get this square here. And if you've got a plane, you'll notice that it takes up the entirety of the square. That's obviously the completely wrong perspective, which you can fix if you just select it, select the face, press U, and what we want to is project from view. And as you can see, that has now put that to the right aspect for us, because it basically just projects exactly down. So for example, if I was to do it with text, and I was to do project from view, you'll see that you get text there, and I've only selected the top, and then that would be the sides there. But yeah, that's how that works. So what we're going to do is go to open image here, and we're going to go to downloads, open the text, and that's going to go here. And what we're going to do is simply line this UV map up with text. And yes, we might have to just give this a bit of a scale. we did say we were going to try to do it like this. So let's just kind of do that. That might have done it. Okay, so we have that there. And we go back to modeling now. Make a duplicate of the plane because we need to make ourselves a, oh, excuse me, we need to make ourselves a collision mesh. And for that, all I'm going to do is just solidify the plane. Solidify, we're going to give it a bit of thickness, doesn't have to be like mega thickness, something like that. Give it an offset of actually 0.8, it probably be better. So if I just look here, you'll see that the plane we've got is here and that's there. What we don't want to do is to have that right at the bottom, because if you do that, it will be perfectly level with the ground and you'll get Z fighting, so it'll flash weirdly. So if we set the solidify to offset it by 0.8 or even 0.9, what that'll do is it'll be close enough to this side that it'll generate as a mount point, but it's not close enough where it will sink into the geometry of whatever you're placing it on. So we're going to apply that. And Control A, all transforms, rotation, scale. Not bad. I prefer it to be a bit bigger on the X, but it's fine. And then we're going to go to V-Ridge. We need to add ourselves a rigid body to this. And then we need to go to test modes, test letter, because I already did this. Just going to accept. Just make sure there's nothing in that folder. Test modes, test letter. Yeah, we'll go to that. Okay, and this is going to go text, because that's what it is. And that's going to be the collision. And our plane is going to be LOD 0. And then what we're going to do is, here's what I made earlier. Just stretch this out. There we go. I already have a definition in here as well. And what we're going to do is import our test modes, test letter. Here we go. Just support what we've just thingied. And this will be complaining about a material. So this is our plane that we've just exported in. That's exactly what we want. We're going to go to definitions. This is literally just a normal structural definition. There's nothing special about it. I'm going to pop that in there. And we're going to be able to see that it is pink for missing texture there. But we'll also need to see that we need to models, we need to snap model to grid. And we'll see that it is a little bit off. There's no way we're going to generate a mount point like that. It has done it off by the Y. That's a 0. No, 0.1. 0.2. Oh, getting close. 0.22. Okay, 0.18. It's not 125. That's 0.13. Okay, there we go. 135, just to make sure. So if we go back to here, go to preview settings, we should be able to generate a melt point there. Where are we? Yes, green melt point generated. And if we look really close here, you'll see there's a bit of a gap between them, which is what we want. Okay, so now we have that. We need to make ourselves the texture. So for this, we're going to go into here. We're going to import our image that we've made from our downloads, or from my downloads even. Yours will be wherever you want it to be. It's just that black background with white text. Now we're going to make ourselves a material. And we're going to create assets, go to material, and the one that we want, the displacement one, is the parallax material, which is down here. And because we're going to be using alpha as well, we're going to get the alpha cutout material. And that's going to generate like that. I call it text. And if you've not logged into this system before, you've not done one before, in VRay3, it sorts the images into contexts. So this wants a color metal texture. This actually wants 4 things. It wants an R, G, B, and an A. So red, green, and blue channels and an alpha channel. Normal roughness texture, extension textures, displacement textures, and it combines all of these into one thing. So what we're doing, the aim of this is to use the vanilla assets for the painted metal colorable, which I can actually show you what that is. If I go to model, I go to search for painted metal colorable. Okay. So that's the painted metal colorable texture. You may have seen it in game, but we basically want this, but we want it to be our letters. So to do this, we're going to use this, and we're also going to use this, and this is what we're going to make it. So color metal texture, if you mouse over it, it shows you what you want. As you can see there, it says alpha along with a slot for transparency. So we want to make a custom one of these because we're going to need to edit it. And so you can hear my dog in the background there. So we're going to make ourselves composite texture. Call it text col because it's for color. And we're going to go for the preset preference, and it's just PBR material template color texture. It's not color texture, it's color metal texture even, sorry. Okay, and then it wants an albedo, which is basically the actual color, which is like gray. Metalness tells it how metal it is, and the alpha mask. Now the alpha mask is our text file there, we just pop that in. And the other ones, because we're using the painted metal colorable, all of these are going to be from the vanilla assets, and we can just search these. So painted metal, and you'll see that we've got a list of all of the individual assets that make up the contexts. So albedo, we just want albedo in all of these 3, and it just reads from the different layers for that. Metal, and in metalness, of course, we want exactly the same, painted metal, but you'll see that there's an underscore metal one, which we want because that's the metal file. So we go back to this, let's pop that there. That's cool. So normal roughness, this is just a file for normal and roughness, which is what gives this that texture. So this one, we don't need to add anything to, it's exactly as we want it. So we can just use the normal context. So again, it's If I could spell, it'd be great. So painted metal colorable, and we're looking for normal roughness texture, which is NR context. Yep, that's all we need there. Our extensions is, you can see, it's AO, emissive, color mask, and transparency. So again, we need to alter this one. So we're going to have to make a new context. And just call this TextX for extension. And we're just going to go down to PBR material template extensions texture. So it's got ambient occlusion. And of course, if you want this one, it's painted metal colorable underscore AO for ambient occlusion. Emissive. I don't think there's a base one of this. There shouldn't be anyway. But let's just quickly check to see if someone put it in anyway. No. So you can leave that blank, or you can switch it to a constant. 0 is off, 1 is on if you wanted to mess around with the emissive stuff, but you can keep that as default. Color mask. So color mask is what tells the when you're using a paint gun, the color mask tells you what you can paint and what you can't. So white is you can paint it, black is you can't. So if I were to put this text into there, like that, and then I was to try and paint it, only the white would change. It doesn't really matter with us because what we're not changing is going to be invisible, but put that there anyway, it's not going to make a difference. And of course we need it in the alpha mask there as well. We're going to go back here and just pop that onto our extensions there. And you may or may not see a change here. Although we won't. Didn't we change that to painted metal colorable? Yes, we did. So we're going to pop that there. And you're going to see it's probably going to look something weird like this. That's because it doesn't usually update properly in the SDK. Sometimes it does, sometimes it does not. So if it looks really weird, don't worry about it. Just trust the process, as they say. Back to our texture. So you can see, although that shouldn't be like that, but we'll see. So you can see that we need a displacement texture. This one isn't a context, you literally just drag that in like that. And then you have emissive, whatever that says, multiplier. So you can dictate how shiny something is, how bright it is if you are going for emissive stuff. Height ratio and depth bias. So these are, you basically control how high the displacement effect is. So you can come up with a lot of different effects if you mess around with these. I'm going to put this to, let's put this to 0.8. Let's just do that a little bit higher for us. And I think we are mostly done here. Change that back to texture, don't care about that. We will remove that because we don't care about that. Just change that to a constant, change it to 1. Okay. And that should, in theory, be fine. So we're going to start the game and have a look. And again, all I've done with this is a basic structural thing set to cube light block kind definition there. So I'm going to give this a minute to load up. You kind of see text in there. Kind of see it. Hopefully this one won't be black at the back end. Do 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 do. do, 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 do. Yeah, my computer, you can do it. Let's move this over here. There we go. We're going to hit new game. Load up creative up. Okay, there we go. Oh, we can see our text here. Let me just rotate this around, pop that down, and as you can see, we have text there. And you can see, even though it's a plane, you get the sense that it is off the ground though. You can see a bit of shadow. If you zoom in really, really close, you can see stretched texture here because of the displacement effect. But you come back just a little bit, and it looks pretty good. Now you can mess around with this a lot, as I said. Excuse me. We'll test that it's colorable. Just grab the red there, pop that on. There we go. That's better, doesn't it? You can zoom away. At some point, the displacement effect ends. It's hard to see, but if you keep an eye on these black bits, they should vanish soon. Hell, I can't even tell. I think I'd have to stretch it out a lot more, but you can zoom out, go out really well. You can still see it. It's still there. It's easier if I do that. And that is basically all you need to do. So anything that's weird shapes that you physically can't get down, if something like letters, you can just do this. You don't need to do a displacement texture. That's just messing around with displacement textures. There you go. Looks pretty good from this angle. You can do just a normal texture and have have fancy letters, just modeled, and then normally what will happen is when you get about this far away, it'll switch to that. And at this distance, you're not gonna notice. For things like cargo ports, for example, or the side of this, you'd literally bake the entire side onto a cube. So when you got back, because when you're about this far, although I know it's not a thing because I can see that moving, although it did stop then, didn't it? So about this far, yeah, so that's changed. I don't know how far it's going to be, but at some point that's going to be just baked onto a cube. Because at this distance, how are you going to tell? You're not really going to be able to tell. So there's a lot of ways to do LODs. It doesn't always involve geometry. As long as it looks the way you want in the end, it doesn't really matter. But yeah, there's tons of ways. The best thing is to experiment, really. Yeah. Thanks for being a part of my text talk. Ooh. Right, well, take care. Have a great rest of your day, guys. I still have this thing where I have to use Task Manager to end everything.